Okay, good morning, class. Today we will be discussing the continuation of our discussion yesterday regarding the usage of the operators as well as objects. We will be discussing about classes and more about them next week. So today we will be doing a practical activity in which we will be recreating a basic calculator. So hopefully you have already prepared your layouts that should look like this. So we will be recreating this calculator in which there are only two inputs, one coming from the blank, which has 0. So before you start, I would like you to have this value here, text at 0. Because if there is no value there, it will cause an error if we have pressed these buttons when there is no data currently in it. So I would like you to put the text, default text into 0 so that we will not encounter any errors along the way. So today, we will be continuing what we have started yesterday. So let me just fix a little bit of the errors encountered here. So this should connect here. Then this should connect here. So let's ensure that no errors are encountered during our text view here is not constrained vertically as well as the answer. So now that everything is neatly arranged, we are going to proceed with this. So I would like you to go to main activity.java and connect them, connect the XML files to the programming code. This is in order for them to be able to communicate directly with our Java application. So after declaring the buttons, the names of the buttons, it doesn't matter if it is the actual name we are going to use here. For example, this text operand 1, it doesn't matter if uh, they have the same name here. So for the buttons, we have already declared the buttons. Now we are going to declare the text boxes that are included here. So one is a text view and the other one is what we call an edit text. How do we figure out if this is an edit text or a text view? Text view is usually used when displaying text. Edit text is usually used when uh, it is used for forms. For example, this blank here. You can see their uh, names if you go to code or split. We'll figure out that these functions, for example, we'll click here. So you can see its actual uh, attribute name is edit text. So we will be creating this here in our Java file. So let's start with edit text. Then um, let's name it text operand 1. Then another one, text operand 2. So now we have declared the edit text. Now we should do the same for the answer, which is a text view. Let's do this. So we name it text answer. Sir, I have a question. Why didn't we connect everything here in the XML file? The answer is simple. We do not want to connect everything, especially those that we are not going to use for programming. We don't want the label here changing every time, right? So we're going to change just those that we are going to require or going to modify along the way. So let's go back to our main activity.java. Then now we are going to connect this these objects to their XML counterparts. So let's start with the button. So button add is equals to find view by ID, then R ID button add. This should do this for for the others as well. You can just copy paste it if you want to. And one more. Let's rename this. I'm missing one mode. So let's rename each one. Do this for the edit text and text view as well. Now we are going to do this for the edit text. So text operand, uh, find view by ID, then text operand 1. And lastly, the text view. Now that we have connected the XML attributes, or what we call this XML objects, to their counterparts in Java, we will start by actually doing something that makes the program function. For example, in web browsers, especially in websites, in order for you to interact with a website, it needs to listen to your uh, input or your uh, whatever you do with the screen. We call we call this listeners. So we should enable our program to be able to listen to whatever the user feedback is doing in their screen. For example, if we are going to tap the screen, it should be able to listen to that. So we call this listeners. There are various types of listeners in Android. There are on-click listeners, there's swipe listeners, there's long press listeners. But for this time, we will be using what we call on-click listeners. It means that at a single soft tap, we will be able to interact with the program. So let's start this by setting an on-click listener to all the buttons. So let's go back to activity main.java. So I will be explaining, wait. So I'll be explaining how the user will be able to interact with the screen. So let me open the sample program. So you should be seeing it here. So the program should be able to interact with the user by these five buttons alone. So as you notice, nothing changes even if we click everything there. Even if we put a value, nothing changes. Nothing changes, right? So the actual listeners are embedded in these buttons. So something might happen if we press the plus button or even the modulo button. So that's how uh, listeners work. So now going back to our program, we will be adding something in our code here. So go here in our line 10 or whatever your line is in your program. Let's add an on-click listener. So here you will see public class main activity extends app compat activity. So let's type implements. You will figure out this function later on in our program. So let's type implements, then capital because this is a class, view dot on click listener. So it will throw up an error because we haven't done anything yet. So it's fine for now. You don't have to worry about that error. So here we will be adding the listeners for the buttons now. So let's type with btn add dot set on click listener. Then type this. Are you following me? If you have any questions, just say so or type in chat, okay? So again, we will do this for the subtraction. You will notice that uh, what is previously gray out becomes, what do you mean purple? Your button is purple. Is it the display or here in code itself? Koji? Have you, maybe your formatting style, does it throw an error or not? The only error line should exist here in public class. If it doesn't have any errors, I don't think we have any issue with yours as well. So now, let's do this for the sub. As you notice again, this is grayed out. But when we use it, it means that uh, it is not an unused variable anymore and it won't gray out. So do this for all the functions or rather all the buttons here. Now, all the buttons, or wait, I think it is missing the modulo. So now all the buttons should have functions. Everything here should be working now. So, which means because all the five buttons have listeners, they should be able to receive the feedback of you pressing these five buttons. But still, nothing would happen. Let's try running this program. Or wait, there's still an error. We can't run it. So, what if ever there is no error, no, if we try running this, nothing will still happen because we haven't done any programming yet. We are just adding listeners to these buttons. So, let's go to main activity Java, then let's add the on-click listeners. So, notice this, there's an opening curly bracket here. Let's make this end here. It means that the whole on create class just covers until here. So let's add another one. So let's type at override, then enter. Then let's type public void on click. Do you follow? Then let's type view, then capital view V ha. View, then V. Then do it like this. So you'll notice every error in your program should vanish by now. Do any of you still have errors during this part? You may type so in our chat or you may interrupt me using your voice ha. So by this point there should be no errors left in your program anymore. So if we try running this program, see, the program already runs. The button also has listeners, but because we haven't put any formula or functions in it, we call methods, there it is still not, it doesn't have any feedback on your button presses. But you will know that it already has its own, what do you call this? Um, it already has received your button presses due to this uh, on-click listeners. Now, let's make your on-click listeners work. So now maybe okay. Let's try moving all your text boxes to the on-click side. So you can do this by pressing uh, cut using cut, which is Control X, then pasting it here and on-click. Do this as well for the declarations. These are the declarations, okay? So, we'll cut this, then paste it here. So that should eliminate the errors that you have encountered. So, why did we do this? So, we moved uh, the operands, which is this, the text box as well as the text views, or text box and the text view, so that the program will only receive the data if there is an on-press activity. So you will notice there's a name on this, what do you call this? Methods. On create and on click. If the program, or rather this line of code, is in on create, it means it will receive your data upon creating this program, in which I don't think you already have typed the program, right? Or type a number. It means whatever the number is during it opening its program, it will receive it. In which by that time you haven't typed any number yet. So we will be moving uh these values or these objects to the on click. So it will only receive the data if you have pressed the buttons here. I hope you get it. So now that we have uh, added the programs, or rather these lines of codes here on click, we will be connecting the edit box to the program itself. So it will get the data, whatever we type here in operand 1 and operand 2 edit text, directly to the program. So we can do this simply by connecting this. So let's start with operand 1, or rather text operand, whatever you name your object is, text operand 1 equals double, which is a class in uh, language, double, then parse double. Because everything you have typed here is parsed in text, it means it should be string, right? That's why we have to convert this into numbers. We have to convert this to numbers. This is the line function. This is the function that allows us to convert characters and string into numbers, or rather double data type. Double that parse double. Then we are going to put here the text boxes. So whatever you name your box is, let me check. I see. So I think we have done this wrong. Okay. Now we are going to create a double variable. We're going to create a double variable which will receive the data that we have typed from these text boxes. So let's create a double variable. One for the operand 1 and another for the operand 2. So let's name this uh, op1. Let's name this op1 and the other one op2. Maybe one for the answer as well. Let's type answer. So now we have place receivers for the data. So operands is how we operate data. So let me type, let me give an example. So let's say x plus y is equals to z. X and y are the operands. Operands allows us to have an operation, right? For example, in this situation, this is an addition operation. Then we have an operator, in which this case, addition sign is our operator, and this is the answer. We are simply simulating it in our program. We are trying to recreate one in order for us to create an operation. I hope I answered your question. Leomer, does this satisfy your question? Okay. So again, the operator is what modifies the operands, and operands is the data in order to create the operation. So now we have representative data in each. So operand 1 and operand 2. So we name this op1 and op2. Now, uh, now we are going to move on. So let's fill this with the data coming from the two edit text. So for op1 is equals to double dot parse double. Again, this line here allows us to convert any or most data types, including strings and characters, into double data type. Then for this part, let's type text operand 1. So meaning we are getting the data coming from the edit text, then convert it to uh, operand 1, then get text, then convert it to string. I will paste the line here, ha, so that you won't get confused. I will paste it in the chat. Okay, you can copy yours. You can copy it. Just include the semicolon. So again, we will be doing this for operand 2. Then, if you can follow, just let me know. So now, we have used op1 and op2. Why is it still grayed out? Because um, op1 and op2 receives data, but we never actually used the variable yet. So I would like you to initialize everything so that we won't receive any error. So for now, we will be recreating this, each one, so that we won't have any errors. So let's put op2 here. We will dissect and put equals 0. So it would throw any errors. 0, then answer. Okay, our answer equals 0. So, as you notice, it will try to throw an error because 0 per se is an integer, right? So this will happen if you add an integer into double. How do we fix this error? Simply by typing point 0 along with it. So it recognizes that it is in double. Now you have the answer in double. Again, the difference between an integer and a double variable is that integer only saves whole numbers. So it won't save fractional numbers. When we say fractional numbers, zero point 0.5, zero point 0.3, anything that is not a whole number, it is considered a fractional number. So double receives both whole numbers and as well as fractional numbers. Now we have um, I will explain each line of code. So again, in this part, we have added listeners for the buttons. Then in this part, we have added the edit text. Then in this part, we added double variables in order to receive the data from this edit texts. Then we are in here, we are connecting the variable to the edit texts. So we have ended in there. So now I'm going to add how we are going to condition it that if we press plus, it will actually do the addition operation. So I will paste the code in the chat so that you can follow. Let me just let me paste it here. Okay. Are you receiving what I have pasted? So I will be pasting what I have pasted in our chat here. So you will receive something like this. As you might have noticed, when view is there, it will throw an error. So try changing it to letter V instead. So there are no errors, right? It means that uh, for this condition, addition should work. So case, we will figure out what case condition is in our later lessons, no? So this is about the decision systems in the program. So don't worry about this. Just paste the code that I have pasted in our chat. So case RID button addition, meaning that it will whatever whenever we press the addition button here, something will happen. And whatever happens, it should be inside this uh, line here. So let's try pasting another one and make it do for subtraction and division. Subtraction. Let's do this for subtraction. Auton subtraction. Then another one for division. So how do we create an operation based on the operands and the operators? So simply type the operation. So let's say answer is equals to op1 plus op2. So now we have the value, right? So if we go back again, in this line of code, we have connected the edit text. So whatever the data received from these edit texts here, it will go to op1 and op2 variables, which are double, right? So now, op1 should have a value depending on whatever you type here. So the answer will receive whatever the resultant data between op1 and op2, similar to what I have drawn earlier. Now, we are going to display whatever is in the answer, right? Whatever is the answer. So now, we are going to throw back whatever our answer is. So text answer, we are going to call the text view, which is underneath this button. Let me just remove this. So now we are going to summon text answer, which is this line. So text answer is equals to, or rather, text answer then set text. Meaning that we are going to set the text whatever we wanted to. It can be in string, for example, whatever. Then let's try rerunning this. So now that addition has an operation. If we press this, it changed to this, right? So we should make it function that uh, it should display the answer of our operation. Now, because this one displays it as a string, we need to convert double back to string again. So now we are going to do this by typing double, then to string. So we're converting double variable back to string. So now let's type the answer variable. So let's um try out our program. I'm quite excited on what the outcome is. So let's try 1 plus 2. The answer should be 3, right? So let's try pressing 2. Or let's try pressing the addition button. So now it works, right? It can even work for decimal places. Let's say 3, then 2 point something like that. So what happened? I don't know. It crashed maybe because of the spaces. Let me redo the operation. My phone automatically adds spaces in the whenever you type. So let's try redoing the operation. So as you might have seen, uh, this is a fully operational uh, calculator already. Now, I would like you to continue this program until the modulo. It is simply as that. By changing the operator, you are going to make this function. So let's try doing this again for subtraction. And I would like you to continue this with the division, multiplication, as well as the modulo. So now, answer is equals to op1 minus op2. Then just copy this line, and that's it. Then again, for division, answer is assign the value of op1 divided by op2. Then double that to string, then answer. And that concludes our lesson for today. Any questions before um by Monday, I will be giving a new activity. We will be creating a wage calculator in which you are going to compute the wage of a salary earner depending on the hours he is rendering. For example, the situation is quite simple actually. You can design, I'll just give this to you as a, no, as a, so that you will be oriented already. So your first group project, this is a group project by the way. So wage calculator. So if ever mag-crash ang app, sir niya, walay known error. Um, there is no undetected error, no? Parehaan ning gibuhat nako ganiha. Ah, there is no undetected error. You can detect this error by going to the log cut. Let me just throw this out there. Go to the log cut. It is usually found at the bottom of Android Studio. Then select error. So any noticeable error within the program should be shown here. So let's try invoking the error again, in which I put space, then type a number, or rather the numbers. We try pressing the button, then it should add end there. So because it is quite confused what I meant by that now, again, let's try rerunning the program. Kasi dalawa yung running na programs. So let's try again. 1.2, then 1.53. So error should be shown up here depending on what I have selected. Let me just, teka lang. I need to close the other program pala. Kaya pala di nakikita. So error should be shown up here. You can simply highlight the line in which it has you have seen the error. So let's try running the program again and it should detect. Okay, here. Now that everything is settled, again, let's try simulating the error again. So have you noticed there is now several errors relating to the basic calculator? Spans cannot have zero length. So let's try here. And now it stopped, right? So you will see which line causes the error. It says here main activity on click line 46. So if we click here, it will redirect you where the error started. Usually The error happens when you are going to convert a string to a double or vice versa. For example, like that. If we are going to type a letter instead of a number, some operations it's going to convert it to a number. But at most times, spaces cannot be converted to numbers. Like this, it throws another error, right? So that's what happens. Questions? Any questions before I orient you with our activity for the next week? This is a group activity, by the way. So I hope by now you have already settled with your groups. So again, orientation of what your activity going to be. The design is up to you. By the way, the design is up to you. So this will be what your program, how your program works. Let's say um, the regular wage earner earns around 115 peso per hour. So you will earn 115 peso per hour for 8 hours a day. For example, you have an overtime. Let's say you work from 8 to 5, that's 8 hours, but you work from 8 until 8. So you have an excess of 3 hours. So those 3 hours in excess will be computed in what we call overtime hours. So let's just throw it there. This is your regular rate and this is your overtime rate. So let's say your overtime rate is 130 pesos per hour. So any hours exceeding 8 should be computed as overtime. So I would like you to prepare prepare a mathematical formula in which how you are going to compute this. I didn't say that you can program. If you are fine doing this program right away, then I will give you bonus points if you can program this right away as a group. No. So, for example, um your program in your program it accepts an input of your hours rendered as well as uh hours rendered as well as your I think this is enough. The input is hours rendered. Then the output should be uh your total wage. Your total wage, how much is the regular hours, how much is the overtime hours. So that is your first project as a group. You will be recreating a wage calculator. So, um, just an example just an example. If I type there, uh, 10 hours. So, if I try to put it 10 hours, the computation should be 8 times 115 plus 2 times 113, 130. So that is the formula. If we had rendered, let's say 7 hours, the formula should be um, 7 times 115. So I would like you to design uh, the UI for this. No need to program. So you can prepare the XML attributes or the properties, the elements needed, but we don't have to proceed to the program yet. Just the UI as well as your computations written in paper format as a group. Okay, any questions regarding our activity and our lessons for today?